This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. Market forces would quickly undermine any scheme to impose a price cap on Russian oil. One of the architects of benchmark global oil prices said, even if the United States and the European Union can convince top Asian importers to take part. Many countries have imposed sanctions on Russia following its invasion of Ukraine, which Moscow calls a special military operation. The measures have failed in one of their prime aims, to reduce Russia's massive revenues from natural resource exports, as international oil prices climbed to 14-year highs shortly after the invasion began on February 24. They remain above $100 a barrel.
China's June gasoline exports halved from a year earlier, driving overseas sales for the first 6 months of 2022 down 42%, as the country sticks with its policy of curbing fuel exports despite stalling domestic demand, Chinese customs data showed on Monday. China exported 730,000 tons of gasoline last month, data from the General Administration of Customs showed, down from 840,000 tons in May and 1.45 million tons in June last year. Last month's diesel exports were at 330,000, compared with 120,000 tons in May, but still a fraction of the 2.36 million tons a year earlier.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Russia is seeking payment in United Arab Emirates dirhams for oil exports to some Indian customers, 3 sources said and a document showed, as Moscow moves away from the US dollar to insulate itself from the effects of Western sanctions. Russia has been hit by a slew of sanctions from the United States and its allies over its invasion of Ukraine in late February, which it terms a special military operation. An invoice seen by Reuters shows the bill for supplying oil to one refiner is calculated in dollars while payment is requested in dirhams.
The governments of São Paulo and Minas Gerais, Brazil's 2 most populous states, on Monday announced cuts in the ICMS tax levied on ethanol, in a bid to make the biofuel more competitive at the pump after a similar gasoline tax reduction. São Paulo cut the ICMS tax, similar to VAT, on ethanol to 9.57% from 13.3%. While Minas Gerais reduced it to 9% from 16%. The tax-cutting moves come as Brazil grapples with double-digit inflation boosted by high energy prices ahead of elections in October. The biofuel competes with gasoline at pumps in Brazil, where most of the car fleet can run on 100% hydrous ethanol due to flex engines. The biofuel is also blended into gasoline in the South American country.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
China's aluminium imports in June fell 36.3% from the same month a year earlier, government data showed on Monday, as domestic production ramp-up and persistently weak demand continued to weigh on import appetite. The country brought in 187,362 tons of unwrought aluminium and products including primary metal and unwrought, alloyed aluminium, last month, according to data from the General Administration of Customs. Aluminium imports into China, the world's biggest producer and consumer of the metal, totaled 1.08 million tons in the first 6 months this year, down 25.9% from the same period a year ago.
Russian blockchain firm Atomize has launched the first digital token backed by palladium produced by Nornickel, it said on Monday. Atomize was the first Russian firm to receive approval to exchange digital assets in February, while the central bank has long voiced skepticism about cryptocurrencies. The emergence of Russia's first industrial token marks the entry of the Russian economy into a new period, the era of tokenization, businessman Vladimir Potanin said in a statement of his Interos holding, one of Atomize's investors and the largest shareholder at metals producer Nornickel. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. Russian wheat export prices rose slightly last week, helped by a stronger ruble-RUB, the IKAR agriculture consultancy said on Monday, adding that exports quickened with arrival of the new crop. The United States last week issued clarification reassuring banks, shippers and insurance companies that transactions with Russian food and fertilizer exports would not breach Washington's sanctions on Moscow. Traders consider this clarification with very careful optimism, IKAR said in a note. It currently expects the country to export more than 2 million tons of wheat this month.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.